Morning, everybody. Figured I'd probably just do a little elaborate video on this particular attachment, this bucket crusher. It's a jaw style, and I'm gonna do the best I can with the knowledge that I do have and experience that I have in working with this particular attachment. It is a pretty specialized machine attachment that can be really effective for small jobs, but as far as like large scale crushing, I think like maybe over 1,500 cubic yards or more, really not going to be the ideal attachment for it unless your company has time and money to spend on sitting and grinding on material. But for small little stuff like this, it does work very well. Some of the advantages of it, obviously it's portable, it's very easy to move around. You can adjust it for the size of finished product you want. I can't recall what the specifications on it, but I know you can go up to, I think, produce up to 6" minus, and I believe all the way down to maybe even 1.5 inches, maybe 1 inch minus. But this the adjustment it's on right now is the adjustment that it had been set at when we purchased it, and I believe overall it's probably producing about a 3 inch minus grade material. You can use it to crush concrete with. It does have rebar in it, but obviously you don't want to try and run, like big pieces of steel through it, like I-beams or railroad ties. It probably could damage the jaw, and obviously you don't want to run chunks of chunks of concrete that got 10 or 15 feet worth of steel hanging out of it. So processing concrete, I guess, would be required if you're going to use this as a attachment to crush and recycle concrete. But I'll show y'all some of the ways to use this attachment, and see how it goes. Obviously, the best way that I've gathered with when I first started using this attachment, the way to be most effective with this is, if you can, you want to sit up higher than the material that you are crushing. You don't want to really be sitting at machine level, because all you'd be doing is, what you see right here is I'm crowding it constantly, so I'm constantly having to push it back away from me or track back if I get it too close to me and readjust, and it's kind of a pain in the ass and time consuming. So in that regard, you want to usually try and set up on a pile. You do not want to force a whole bunch of material in there at one time, so production is not going to be extremely efficient with this. If you are trying to get massive production, your best bet is to probably get a big crusher and crush it that way. But proper way to do this that I've gathered is just get maybe 3/4 of a bite, half bite maybe, just depending on the material. Turn on your jaw, and curling your attachment is going to be how you feed the material through there, and you don't necessarily want it to feed through there extremely fast, so you just slowly curl it and just let the rock run through, let gravity do the work, and you can just slowly curl it more to adjust your feed and to assist more material through there. And as you can see, it's producing the finished product. And another thing about this is, it definitely, with feeding material through there, it definitely works best in dry conditions. If you are having to run fines through there, like what I'm doing, a lot of dirt. If you're just running rock through there, you don't. It's obviously Kerr rock isn't necessarily going to be affected by moisture. It can be, if, you know, depending on what kind of rock it is. It produces a lot of fines as it's getting crushed. But the thing about this material, it is fairly soft, so it crushes through there fairly well. And sometimes you see right there, stuff will Tetris itself in there, and you may have to shake it a little bit. But what you don't want to do is, if you get a jam in there, you don't want to just take the bucket and just slam it on the ground. That's a way to tear up your linkage and pins. And I've seen people that had worked in this outfit before use it like a regular digging bucket, and they scrape it so hard that they shear the mounting bolts off of separate the bucket from where the pins go. Sitting at ground level, like I said, is not the most effective way to do this, but without support equipment to bring it to a pile, you really don't have much of an option. So you just got to kind of just sit there and grind on the material. And once you're complete with your pile, you can just move on to the next one. Obviously, with wet material, it is going to have a little bit harder time feeding through there. This stuff is, we've had a lot of rain. This stuff's had kind of some time to dry out, but like I said, you can see how it's falling out of there. It's falling out in big chunks. It's really not the ideal material to be running through there if it's wet. Like I said, sometimes you just don't really have much of a choice. You just gotta be mindful and adjust accordingly to your conditions and the material you're working with. Sometimes sometimes you can take big bites. Sometimes you gotta take small bites. It just depends. I'm no real expert with this attachment. I'm just sharing my knowledge and experience with working with this attachment. And I said it definitely has its place. I had never seen one before until a guy in the company said that they were going to purchase one and showed me a video of it on YouTube. And I thought it was a pretty neat little setup. And another advantage, another big one is if you're working in demolition and you have to worry about dust permits. This attachment, you don't necessarily have to worry about dust. There is a little bit, but it's so minimal that dust permits aren't even really an issue. But of course, you want to just still check with your local inspector, I guess, and they'd probably be able to make the final call, or whoever in your company is responsible for that sort of thing. I hope I covered everything that I feel it should be covered. Like I said, I'm no real expert with this. Just sharing my knowledge of what I know with this particular attachment does, what it can do, and what it can't do. Before I go, I'll kind of show you. Depending, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this, unless you kind of, I guess, know what you're doing and you're comfortable within your own means. But if you got something, a piece of material you want to crush, and you know it'll break fairly easy, you just put a little bit of weight to it, and you can sometimes size with it. I personally wouldn't recommend doing it, but you know, that would be your call for this particular attachment. you don't necessarily want to be slamming it. But if you just drop it a couple of times and you're real gentle with it, you probably can break your material. But if not, then you'll have to have support equipment to size and process before you crush it. But hope this video helps. If anybody out there does get the opportunity to work with an attachment like this, they've definitely got their place, and there's advantages and disadvantages to them. So I hope that helps.